Overnight, markets and policymakers stayed focused on the intersection of conflict, energy supply and inflation. The Strait of Hormuz remains the key pressure point. Iran has claimed it has seeded a central shipping passage with sea mines, which analysts describe as a coercive threat aimed at maintaining leverage over a choke point that carries a large share of global oil flows. After a 2-week truce announcement, the U.S. president accused Iran of doing a poor job of allowing oil through the strait, adding uncertainty about whether shipping can normalize quickly. Separately, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance warned Iran not to play the United States as he departed for peace talks, with reporting also highlighting how Israel argued for regime change in Iran and how the fallout is shifting American public opinion. The economic impact is already showing up in data. The Financial Times reports U.S. inflation has jumped to a 2-year high as the Iran war ripples through the economy, with petrol prices posting a record monthly surge in March and consumer sentiment sinking to a record low. That combination raises the risk that central banks face renewed pressure between inflation control and growth support, particularly if energy disruption persists. In the broader conflict picture, Israel has agreed to Lebanon peace talks as deaths from strikes climb above 300, but Lebanon is signaling it will only participate if a ceasefire is already in place. In Ukraine, Russia and Ukraine have agreed to a 2-day Orthodox Easter ceasefire, with President Zelensky calling for an Easter without threats and a real move toward peace. In the occupied West Bank, the BBC reports a Palestinian was shot dead during an Israeli settler attack, as former security chiefs warned violence was out of control. Al Jazeera reports the OIC has condemned Israeli approval of 34 new West Bank settlements. On the technological revolution front, there are no material AI policy or major platform developments in today's set of stories, but the strategic backdrop remains clear. Energy security, defense decision-making and economic resilience are increasingly being treated as technology-enabled national power questions, with governments under pressure to communicate more clearly and act faster. Turning to Australia, the dominant issue was energy security and the economic exposure to global disruption. ABC reporting says, Australia is currently stitching together fuel supply through a patchwork of relationships, underscoring vulnerability if global shipping lanes tighten. The Conversation reports more Australian LNG to Singapore is being flagged as the Prime Minister looks to strengthen the oil supply chain, following a meeting with Singapore's Prime Minister. ABC analysis warns Albanese's petrodiplomacy may not overcome the pain ahead, with the implication that any sustained disruption through Hormuz would test household budgets, business costs and political leadership. On Australian government policy and politics, The Guardian argues, Australia's need clearer and more frequent prime ministerial communication in the Trump era, noting defense leadership, has been briefing ahead of the imminent release of a new national defense strategy that points to a near-term focus for the Australian public service, aligning defense, foreign policy, energy contingency planning and public messaging as conditions shift quickly. Locally, Orthodox Easter will be marked this weekend, with SBS reporting more than 500,000 Australians expected to take part. In sport, Lachlan Kennedy has become the first Australian to break 10 seconds for the 100 metres on home soil at the National Championships in Sydney, while the women's 1,500 metres result remains in dispute after Jessica Hull's fall and protests. That's the latest on the material developments to start the day.